Cousin, no, no, no.
Joe.
No, no, no.
Joe.
No, 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 no.
Joe.
Ah.
Oh, hey, sorry, I didn't see you there. Where was I?
You were about to talk about cousin.
Oh, yeah. Pokémon Scarlet and Violet. We've been blessed with several Pokémon games on the Nintendo Switch. Some have been really fun, while others completely missed the mark regarding what a good game is. Being a longtime Pokémon fan, the franchise holds a place dear to my love for video games. I grew up with it and always enjoy seeing what new creative creatures they came up with, and how the world and gameplay mechanics evolved with every new generation of Pokémon. When Pokémon came to the Nintendo Switch, it took a major leap forward. With Pokémon Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee, we got Pokémon walking around the overworld. With Pokémon Sword and Shield, we got a taste of disappointment, a really good looking world, and found out just how cool it can be if we had a Pokémon game where you could move the camera.
Wow. Pokemon sure is taking big leaps in the gaming industry.
I know, right? That's what we call innovation. With Pokémon Legends Arceus, we finally got a really good Pokémon game, which might not be perfect, but it is the closest we ever got with the series. It had big open areas, with camera control, Pokémon running around, resources to collect, faster battle mechanics, and the ability to catch Pokémon without battling them. The game had some things that felt missing, such as a larger Pokédex, but overall, it was the most fun Pokémon experience I had to that date. Things were looking good for Pokémon fans, as we even got word of a new mainline Pokémon game coming to the Nintendo Switch later in that year. It promised a fully open world experience, camera controls, the ability to send your Pokémon to collect things, sandwiches, multiplayer mechanics, and loads of new Pokémon. It was looking to be the best Pokémon game ever, but then it got released.
So what happened after the release that was so bad?
Well, to be honest,
No, 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 no. Cousin!
nothing much.
Could it be the experience share? I know you have a thing against experience share.
No, it's not the experience share, although I still hate it a lot, but it seems more balanced these days, and like it's here to stay, so complaining about it won't help anymore.
Then maybe it's all the glitches that the game has.
No, it's not the glitches. Although the game is riddled with glitches, it's a AAA game, so we should have expected it to be full of them. No, the problem lies somewhere else. Pokémon Scarlet and Violet feature an open world, unlike any other Pokémon game. That was released by Game Freak. The game starts you off on a linear path where you need to meet an annoying rival, get your Pokémon, go to school, and hear a speech about finding your treasure. But once you get through all of the long, hard, boring, veiny bits, you're set free to explore the world to your heart's content. With camera control.
Wow, that sounds amazing.
But it gets even better.
No way!
Pokémon once again roam around the overworld, with you having your pick of battles. There are some creative locations to explore in an almost seamless open world where you can go anywhere you can reach. You can stop in the middle of your journey to picnic with your Pokémon, which is similar to camping in Pokémon Sword and Shield, allowing you to wash your Pokémon, play with them, and feed them. Only this time, it's sandwiches.
Cool. I like sandwiches.
Where all the Pokémon games will take you on an almost completely linear journey, this one allows you to tackle the story however you wish. The story is broken up into three main parts, which are Victory Road, Starfall Street, and Path of Legends. Victory Road follows the typical Pokémon story, where you need to battle 8 gyms and then face the Elite Four. Starfall Street has you take on the bad guys in the game, called Team Star. And Path of Legends has you visit different locations to investigate a bunch of giant Pokémon, which are smaller than Dynamax Pokémon, but still big, I guess. The stories can also be tackled in any way you choose, as you can visit any Team Star camp, or gym, or giant Pokémon that your mode of transport allows you to get to. As you play the Path of Legends storyline, your rideable Pokémon will learn new abilities that allow you to reach new places around the map. For a Pokémon game, the overall story isn't that bad either.
So, it's a good storyline.
I never said that. Some of the newly added Pokémon are cool, and I really like some of the Paradox Pokémon. My favorite new Pokémon were Lechonk and, Charcadet? Yeah, Charcadet. And, Toadstool. And, Not all new Pokémon were a hit for me, like the final evolutions of the starters, which were meh. But then again, some people like Pokemon I hate, and that's okay.
We're all allowed to have flaws.
Not really.
The game's added some collectibles that incentivize exploring in the form of Gimmighoul coins, of which you need to collect 999 to evolve Gimmighoul. Why they didn't add the Gimmighoul roaming form as an obtainable pre-evolution Pokemon is beyond me, as it was my favorite form of this Pokemon, and might have made me like it. There are also stakes that you can find around certain areas of the map that unlock something when you collect them all.
That sounds delicious.
Yeah, but it doesn't feel like it was cooked properly.
Such a shame. Steak is usually good.
In every later mainline Pokemon game, there's been some gimmick added to the fighting. There were Mega Evolutions, then came Sun and Moon with Z moves, then Sword and Shield with Dynamaxing that turned Pokemon big, and now Pokémon Scarlet and Violet added Terrestrializing, which turns the Pokemon into crystals and gives them a funny hat.
That's a penis!
I have mixed feelings about Terrestrializing, as I like what it does, but the hat part is sometimes just weird. Terrestrializing allows a Pokemon to change their type during battle, boosting moves of the same type they changed into, and adding corresponding resistances. All Pokemon can Terrestrialize, and most will use their corresponding type when they Terrestrialize. But you can find special Pokemon in the overworld, and even some in dens that allow you to fight in raids, in order to obtain Pokemon with alternative Terrestrialized types. This means a Fire-type Pokemon can become a Water-type, or a Ghost-type, or even a normal type. You can also obtain Terrestrialized shards that can be used to change your Pokemon to any Terrestrialized type corresponding to the crystals, allowing you to match the perfect typing to whichever Pokemon you choose. Once you Terrestrialize a Pokemon, you need to find a Pokemon Center to restore your Terrestrialized ball before you can do it again. I really enjoy this mechanic, but the hats!
The stupid, dumb hats, they ruin everything.
This sounds like a problem that stems from your childhood. You ever been assaulted by a hat?
Probably.
Some of the hats that Pokemon obtain look really cool, but most of them feel like the designers didn't understand the brief and just went with whatever was available in the assets store.
They put a house on the Pokemon's head.
Amazing.
Even with my personal issues, Terrestrializing is still a creative battling addition that changes the Pokemon landscape in a competitive setting. In Pokémon Scarlet and Violet, they scaled Pokemon in the world according to their Pokédex size. It was a really cool design choice that gives you a better feel of just how big or small certain Pokemon really are, and made the world feel more real. My only problem with this design choice is that certain Pokemon are so tiny that they are really hard to see, especially when you are sprinting, resulting in a lot of unwanted wild battles with tiny Pokemon. Other than that, I quite like that they implemented this in the game. Another thing I really liked about the games was the newly added Let's Go ability that allows you to send your Pokemon out to collect items and auto-battle wild Pokemon, or simply run beside you.
It's like a dream come true.
Possible mother issues.
It's a mechanic I've always wanted in a modern Pokemon game since I played Pokemon Soul Silver, and they finally did it. Although it is limited to just fighting, collecting items, and running around, it is a welcome addition which I would like to see implemented better in future Pokemon games. Having the option to have a Pokemon follow you is a really great feature, as it gives you a sense of being on an adventure with that Pokemon. In Scarlet and Violet, this feature was implemented better than I hoped for. At first, I wasn't sure I would want to use it, but once I got the hang of it, I became really lazy and let my Pokemon do all the heavy lifting.
Well, everything seems in order to me. Why are you even here?
Because not everything is as it seems.
No!
You see, the world of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet is really boring.
Having an open world is one thing, but having a good open world is a completely different thing. Grand Theft Auto San Andreas is a nice example of a good open world.
Oh shit, here we go again.
You have missions to do, or you can simply mess around, steal a car, boost your wanted level, and avoid getting wasted by the cops. But messing around in the game is about more than just stealing a car and getting caught by the cops. There are different areas with gangs that you can fight in order to take over their turf. You can borrow a bicycle from someone and train your bicycle stats, or ride down to the salon and get some cornrows, or go to the bar and play some pool, or go ride the bike you borrowed in the skate park, or go find the dildo in the police station showers and then beat people with him, or go to the gym and get buff, or act like you're a train conductor, or go and eat a bunch of crap food and get the perfect dad bod. The world of Grand Theft Auto San Andreas is the perfect sandbox experience for a game of its genre, and it even has camera controls and voice acting.
And this from a game that was released in 2004.
So how do you feel about that?
Well,
The world of Pokémon Scarlet and Violet feels empty. Sure, there are Pokémon around every corner, and that is what it is supposed to be about. But once you find a new cool looking location, you find that outside of the gyms, the Team Star raids, the boring NPCs, and the giant Pokémon, there really isn't much to do. You can collect usable items in the form of glowing little lights. These items are scattered everywhere around the world, and respawn, making them so common that after a while there is nothing special about finding one of these random items. There is a small handful of buildings you can enter through the game, but most buildings like people's residence or even shops don't allow you to enter them.
this used to be a feature we had on the Game Boy.
In Pokémon Sword and Shield, which was released in 2019 and was a huge disappointment, you could at least enter some people's houses and even some unimportant buildings. They also had shops you could enter, such as a barber, clothing shops, and Pokémon centers. In Pokémon Scarlet and Violet, they streamlined the Pokémon centers and turned them into little outdoor kiosks, which works well with the game's playstyle, but takes away from the feeling of reaching someplace safe, where you could rest away from the cruel world out there. They also streamlined the shops, and instead of having places you can enter to buy your items, you now just get a shop screen that is quite boring and uninspiring. Most of the shops are also just copy and pasted, with some areas having multiple of the same shops just a few steps away from each other.
And how does that make you feel?
Like they're gonna destroy the economy.
The overall design and look of the world is worse than in Pokémon Sword and Shield, and more boring than Gen 1 Pokémon games. In the first generation Pokémon games, the first town had a school where you could learn stuff and a road that led to the ending of a game, followed by a town where there was a museum teaching you more about moon rocks, followed by a town where you had to fight a bridge filled with Team Rocket recruits and then find Bull, who turned himself into a Pokémon. Then in the next town, there was a freaking cruise ship you needed to explore. After that, there was a town with a graveyard, a town overtaken by Team Rocket where you need to save office workers, a town with a gambling corner, a town with a giant safari area, and then a town on an island that was a mission to get to on its own with a giant burned down mansion. In the disappointing Pokémon Sword and Shield, although uninteresting and repetitive in many places, it at least felt like it had a world which a lot of care went into. Areas like the start of the game feel so colorful and vibrant with its windmill and farm plots around you. There were cities that felt and looked interesting and impressive, from giant castles to glowing mushroom towns. Although a lot had nothing interesting to do in them, at least they looked interesting, and as if they had potential if the Pokemon franchise could just chill the hell out for 1 minute, instead of rushing out new games to sell new plushies and merchandise.
That's just part of the circle of life.
But it shouldn't be.
In Pokémon Scarlet and Violet, most locations feel like uninspired afterthoughts that look bland. It feels like over every hill there's just another piece of open field with a bland, boring looking town, and nothing fun to do or discover. Besides for the gyms, there really was no reason to spend any time in newly discovered towns, as they held nothing of importance and also didn't look fun. In one part near the start of a game, your rival and you stand on top of a tower and they mention how amazing the world looks, and all you can see is a bland looking world with badly rendered trees. Remember during the opening of Breath of the Wild, when they do the panning shot of the amazing world you just stepped into, and you immediately want to find out what lies in the distance, over the mountains and in the forests? In Pokémon Scarlet and Violet, there is none of that, except for the part where you want to see what's in the distance over the mountains, because where you are in the world during that scene is ugly. They could have used the opportunity to add cutscenes where they showed off different amazing Pokemon in different environments, but instead, all you look at is this.
I think you're overreacting. That looks amazing for a GameCube game.
Another thing is, just like in Pokémon Sword and Shield, a lot of the distant locations that look interesting have no reason to exist besides being a landmark. It has been improved in some ways, such as now when you reach the interesting looking set of towers, you can even climb them. But once you reach the top, the view is bland and all that waits there for you is a coin. None of the moments where you discover something new feels special, and there's no real reason to explore except to find the same Pokemon over and over again. Imagine instead of finding nothing of interest when you reach the top of a tower, you can instead trigger an event where a beam of light pops up in the distance where you can find a new rare terrestrialized Pokemon. Or if you reach the forest and there were two wild Pokemon fighting each other over the territory, and you can intervene or let them battle it out, resulting in a different balance in the amount of those Pokemon that pops up in that area. Or if you reach a snowy area and there's a special Pokemon causing a storm that is affecting the nearby town and the number of people or shops, leading you to go discover the mystery behind the storm to restore the town. Or if you climb a mountain and you find a special event, like maybe racing your rival towards a certain point to catch a rare Pokemon that doesn't normally appear until the end parts of a game, allowing for them to have a more dynamic team and giving them a chance to have the upper hand in battle once in a while. Or imagine there was a legendary Pokemon that you had to find and battle in different locations around the map in order to unlock a special area where you discover that that Pokemon's habitat is in trouble, and once you help it to save its home, it decides to join your party, instead of you just finding stakes around the world that disappear when you touch it, with no feeling behind the event.
And this is just from the top of my head.
I like the part with stakes everywhere.
That's not the point.
NPCs are also not very exciting. There are a lot of interesting looking NPCs in the game, and I was really excited to see a variety of new NPCs. But they don't do anything.
That kind of sounds like you.
Dude, this is a therapy session. Let's not get personal.
When we got side quests in Pokémon Legends Arceus, I thought that we finally moved into having a more fleshed out world with a reason to talk to different people. But in Scarlet and Violet, they're also bland and lack any sense of personality, to the point where it feels like a waste of time to talk to any NPC. Besides the headmaster of the school, and at times Arwen, all the other characters felt uninteresting, as if they only existed to make the world look busy, without actually making it feel alive. Some of them constantly irritate me when I just want to play the game, while others never had anything interesting to say, or any reason for me to interact with them besides for progressing the story. NPCs rarely have anything of value to add to the game, that enriches the experience or immerses us more into the game's world. There are NPCs located around every area outside of the towns that are even more boring. They don't pop out of a hiding place or scare the crap out of you, or block your way forward, or just do anything to interact with the world. They just stand around waiting for you to walk up and challenge them.
Maybe it just bothers me, but that does sound like a sad existence.
It's probably just you.
You can find wild terrestrialized Pokemon around the world, but the same ones always spawn in the same locations, making the find feel quite lame. You do get raid battles where you can fight a randomly spawned Pokemon, but those battles can be a real drag if you're fighting higher star monsters while playing solo, as the AI battling with you is usually quite useless. Even the Team Star battles were really boring. You run around and have your Pokemon auto-battle a bunch of Team Star Pokemon until you reach the right amount of wins, and then you fight a boss. The whole process feels uninspired, and once you beat the boss of the camp, there really isn't anything new or unique to do there, basically rendering the entire area a boring zone. A lot of the gyms feel lame, with their leaders not really standing out compared to the next NPC. After I went through all the gyms, there really wasn't a single one where I felt that I had a memorable experience. The fact that you can take on any gym in any order was a great concept, but the fact that the gyms don't scale according to your progress really sucked. I reached a gym where the average level was around level 30, and then the next two gyms that I stumbled across, the Pokemon were all on a lower level, causing me to steamroll through the gym with my eyes closed.
Maybe you're just too good for the game.
Nah, I've got my expectations in check. This is just bad open world design.
And then don't even get me started on the gym challenges. The most memorable gym challenges to me was one where you were sliding down a hill, and another one where you were pushing an oversized olive, and even they were not great. At least in Pokemon Sword and Shield, half of the gym challenges were fun and creative. But in Scarlet and Violet, they really feel like an afterthought that just pads out the gyms because they are too easy and boring to begin with. The worst offender of all is that you are only able to challenge the Elite Four once in the game.
What the hell?
I know, right?
In most past games, you can rematch them to see how much stronger you got, or just if you wanted a really tough battle. But the option just isn't available because half of the Elite Four are gym leaders that you already took down, and they need to return to their gyms for the lamest of post-game content that leaves us with a game that needs DLC to entertain you for longer than the main storyline.
But that's not even the part that I dislike most about the game.
Oh hell no. What could be worse than that?
The Pokémon.
If there is one thing that I want in a Pokemon game, it is to have a world where the Pokemon feel like they belong in their environments and setting.
Isn't that what all of us want?
I don't know. I don't work in HR.
In Pokémon Scarlet and Violet, the Pokemon in the world feel a bit off. They did add some interactivity with the world for some Pokemon, such as ones that hide in trees, or others grouped together around a stronger evolution, but the overall feel of the world feels unrealistic for a Pokemon world.
What does that even mean?
It means they need to try harder.
There are so many different Pokemon bundled together in some areas that feel like they shouldn't be hanging out together, such as a group of Growlithe, a Cypher, and a Vaporeon all just chilling next to each other, not noticing or being bothered by one another. The thing where a bunch of weaker Pokemon are grouped around a stronger evolution was cool at first, but when you end up seeing it everywhere the whole time, it stops making sense to the world and ends up feeling like a cool concept that turned into a cut corner just to get the game out in time. It doesn't feel natural and ends up making the experience less interesting to me. Having so many Pokemon in such a small space makes finding certain Pokemon feel less rewarding, as there are so many more of them just hanging around.
Man, you've got a lot of issues.
I was also not a fan of having the legendary Pokemon with me the whole time, but not being able to use it in battle as it was too weak. Are you telling me that this giant lizard that can sprint, jump, swift, and headbutt trees while I'm riding on it is weaker than a Magikarp?
Don't you f***ing dare!
It would have felt better to have a weakened Pokemon that you could still use in battles and then grow by unlocking new moves, and later even boosts its power level to over 9,000, instead of going through the whole adventure, not being able to use it in battle, and then getting it all powered up at once at the end of the journey.
After I already felt done with the experience.
When I was done with Pokémon Legends Arceus, I wanted to replay the game because I enjoyed the world and gameplay mechanics so much. I transferred all my caught Pokémon to the Pokébank, wiped my save file, and started the journey over, taking things much slower the second time around. On the other hand, once I was done with Pokémon Scarlet's story, I felt relieved that I could finally move on to another game. And that's not how you're supposed to feel about a good game. Pokémon Scarlet and Violet did a lot to move the franchise forward, yet it also feels like it took a few steps back.
Like it's evolving. Just backwards.
The games are not unplayable, and if you're really itching for a Pokemon experience, then they are probably some of the best you will get on the Nintendo Switch. It made a lot of improvements to the Pokemon franchise and gave us the experience we asked for. But in the end, the boring and empty feeling of the world just doesn't make it something I want to keep hanging around with, and that is disappointing.
I guess all that I can say in the end is that Pokemon Scarlet and Violet are not that bad. That doesn't make them good. Thank you, HR department. You've solved all my problems. Now I'm ready to get back to the terms and conditions.
Not so fast. You got far too many problems for me to let you just go back into the world.
Pokemon did it.